wanna be the best in the game, invest in my name, check no restraints, I'm obsessed with the pain. I ingest, I retain, assess and I change, possessed by the thought I'll be free one day from society's restraints. Money, clout and fame, mud, disease, a plague. We all love to hate, have to play the game, have to make a name. All our insecurities are on display. This is war with the enemy, think that it was meant to be. Living in the...
Hello and welcome listeners to another episode of Tactical Awareness. My name's Ash and I'm joined by my fellow hosts Owen and Dan in a Canadian podcast about Infinity and 5. Now this month it begins our new series Zeros and Heroes, where we do a faction breakdown of unit profiles and how they've changed in Infinity's new edition, N5. And we do so by creating an army list each for our chosen faction we're discussing this week, talking about the unit profiles we included, why we think they're interesting, and then at the end, rounding up any profiles that were new, changed, or overlooked in our finishing sort of like end of business segment. So today we're covering military orders as we get to the big blue boys, Pan Oceania and the Hyperpower. We'll be doing them in order, starting with the three sectorials and then ending with the soup that is Vanilla Pan O. So let's see how the fellas are doing and get this underway. Kill my camera just to make sure the audio is tasty. I don't want to kill Dan's camera because I can. Because why not? Fuck you, Dan. There we go.
Stop my video.
It's so funny. I know. I did stop your video. It's funny because I think, how should we do this? Because none of us have played Svartalfheim. I've played Kestrel, so I'll lead the Kestrel one. We'll make Dan lead the Svartalfheim one. And Owen, obviously, you need to lead the Military Orders one to start off with, because that's what we're doing today. We're doing the MO. And we're all going to go through our lists. This is the format. You've heard the format introduced in the intro, but I'll just go through it right now to remind everybody. We each go through our list. We each go through our things that made the list that were like the standouts from the army. And that's how we're doing this. So why don't we start off with your list, man? This is Military Orders, the Knights. And what do we think about them in N5? What's the thing that made you make this list, and what's in it?
I mean, as far as my list, like here, I'm gonna post it. I'll put it in the patrons chat in the Discord.
Yes. Well, what we'll just use, I'm gonna make a Google Doc real fast, and I'll go to the Patreon. I'll do the thing too, but I'll make a Google Doc that has just a text box we can put all of our lists in as we do these, and then when we do the video or the podcast description will have the codes for all of them in it. Yeah.
Yeah. There you go.
That feels like the right way to do this. So let's just make a Google Doc right here, and I'll throw that up in the patrons chat so they can all see it all as well at the same time. Going to Google Documents. Isn't Google great that it lets us do all these things? Blank doc. I'm gonna call this Pano.
It sure does let you do those things for free. You're not paying in any way.
The only thing I'm paying is my privacy and all of the rights that I give up to these things probably in the future.
There are no costs at all of any kind.
I'm sure there isn't. I'm sure there
besides my humanity.
Yeah.
Let's do.
I'm glad the Tick Belang is worse in Military Orders. Like, just to talk, like, to rant about something in Military Orders. Okay. The Tick Belang is way better in the other, like in Vanilla, I believe he's in right now, and maybe in Kestrel. Yeah. Because he's got that super lieutenant profile. But in Military Orders, he loses that. And then he ends up just being like a loser tag compared to the other guys that show up in Military Orders. He's not bad by any means, but the nerf to climbing plus, where you can't just like spider climb everywhere instantly for free. Combined with he no longer gets the extra lieutenant profile or orders, turns him into just HMG with an M3 bot. And like, you don't need it anymore. Like, there's other guys who do that, but also do. Like Mendoza's multi-rifle is nearly that, only it's MIM 6. And also on fire. And so it's like, yeah, you have an HMG that's damage 4. I have a rifle that's damage 6, but mine lights you on fire and is also AP and is also shock, and I'm also MIM 6, and I'm also small. And
Tick also doesn't really have the legs now that the Seraph is awesome.
Yes, the Seraph gained all new life by not losing remote presence and gaining NCO
and having massive jump range
and gaining jump range, jumping to the fastest unit in the game.
Yep.
That was his big upgrade.
Literally the fastest unit in the game. Literally can fly across the board.
Tied for fastest, but fastest.
Right. He's tied with the like 4 other guys that are all in the same boat.
Yeah.
But they're all in that boat. But I posted my list. Knight Commander, Curator, Crux Knight, Seraph, Mulebot Evo, Blackfriar, Raven Eye, Thunderbolt Sierra, Holy Sepulchre NCO, and a Tech B. All of these things stood out to me. Like I always played the Joan Pain Train, and the Pain Train's still fine. It isn't what it used to be with the changes to link teams, but it's still a bunch of really powerful guys that can just fight their way through things. But like the Knight Commander's buff tied to the Seraph getting NCO and the Sepulchre having NCO, giving me multiple routes to go with that. So it's not just wasted on one of them. Yeah. And then the Tech B turning into the Tag Com, giving the Seraph dodges on 15s suddenly makes it actually defensible to some degree. Blackfriar's still solid. Albedo's just better-ish now, where he can fight other MSV people. I went with the Biometric Visor Discover +3 one. He's mostly there to just defend the Seraph and the Sepulchre Knight. The Crux Knight has his armed turret because I think the armed turret combo is just too valuable to not have. The Mulebot Evo is there to do 2 jobs of both defensive hacking against drop troops because they seem far more prevalent than they used to be. And then armed turrets are just a valuable thing to throw out. And I have a Mulebot, so I'm going to double down on that. And that's the whole gimmick. I am going to fly at you with either the Seraph on the left or the Sepulchre Knight on the right. And whatever side is your weaker side is the one that I'm going to go for.
Let's talk about that Seraph, because, man, like the glow up in the Seraph can't really be understated. Even and especially because he's got a Fizz 12 dodge, which for a tag is actually really high, and a Fizz 13 gizmo kit, which a lot of the
all the remote tags pretty much got a 13.
Yeah, if there's not a guy inside that can die, right, from like, sticking a wrench somewhere you're not supposed to.
Yeah.
But jet propulsion super jump 8.
Tied to that buff though is the fact that the pilots like the Tech B exists now, which jumps his dodge to 15 and his gizmo kit to 14,
which is legit. And did you throw that? I didn't hear if you threw
the Tech B is in there.
She is in there. Yeah, she is.
You gotta. If you don't have the tag com, if you bring a tag, you have to bring a tag com.
I'll be honest, I tore apart the warehouse trying to find my Tech B and Crabbot after I painted my Squalo Mark II. I was like, I've never needed this thing. I know I've had it for like 5 years and I've never painted it. And I was like, where are you? It's finally your time. And it is literally sitting next to me right now because it's on the list of Kestrel things I need to put together. But dodging on 15s with a Seraph, oh my god! And like think about even because like whip 13, whatever. Think about even like if you do accidentally get stuck by like a guided, right? Like there's one of those things with the jumps is not having a lot of cover. You could accidentally get tagged with a targeted by like an FO because forward observers worth went up a whole lot because they're the only thing in the game that creates a targeted state with no save anymore. It's like, let's say you get spotted by an FO during a jump and you've got, you can't do anything about it because you're jumping.
They have super jump. They short skill jump.
I know you can shoot. I'm saying like in the second half or something like that. Like and you just risk it and you get tagged with one. Like you can Fizz 15 dodge with ECM guided -6 a missile. Like it's I'm saying that's like a weird corner case, but like it's such a dodgy tag. EM mines, you can dodge them on 12s. Like in
all fairness, crazy. Just the other side of that coin, if you got tagged on the second half of that jump, you within that first 16 inches of the first 2 jumps and the 8 inches of the next jump, you're within 48 inches of any point on the board in that 2-order play. So like no matter where that bot is, if he goes to try and do free shots at you or something like that, or whoever it was that flash pulsed you can just whip around and AP Spitfire them with BS 15 anywhere.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah,
I know. You're pretty amazing. It's a not nothing. So the Seraph obviously is like the standout piece for you in the military orders glow up. Is there any other pieces in that list that we just mentioned the Tech B in Pano in general, but like any other pieces in that list that you
the
think
Crux
really
Knight
stand out?
is
Crux
the other
Knight,
guy.
okay, go on.
The Father Knight second edition ish.
Father Knight back, because it used to be Father Knight kind of became Knight of Justice, like stat line wise, and now he's back, but he does so much more.
And like Knights of Justice are still cool.
Yep.
But they're better now because you could actually justify like bringing them because they can get the link bonuses by just joining like 2 Croziers or a Order Sergeant or whatever, like whatever route you want to do to get them the special dice, and then they're just really beefy knights. Like that's their whole jam, and like you could do that. There's something to be said for them. They're also like Whip 13 specialists if you want that.
And just for some history here, the original Father Knight Classic that doesn't exist anymore in Pano, he was basically this stat line, except he was BTS 9.
No, the Knight of Justice is still BTS 9.
Oh, is Knight of Justice
the Crux
BTS
Knight
9?
is lower.
Yeah, it's only BTS 6. Yeah, he's got Albedo instead.
Weaker. Yeah.
But then
we played a game the other day.
BS Tech plus 1 special dice all the time is another big key difference, and then stealth and specialist operative, which I think is the other 2 things that are different. Sorry, go on, Dan.
Yeah, no, Owen decided to bring a Crux Knight against me with the Crazy Koalas, and he like reveals, and I'm like, I shoot you with like an EM carbine or whatever it is, and he's just like, okay, I'll just throw out a Crazy Koala and just tanks it. And with his BTS 6 in cover, he just tanks it, and nothing happened. And I was so angry, and then did it again, and he was just throwing Crazy Koalas around the rest of my army, and I'm like, "What is happening?"
And then reloading them off his, robot. Yeah, I can see that coming.
Yeah, the deployable turrets and the koalas tied with the free reloads, but for being near your bots. That's not like a military orders thing. That's just an everybody thing.
Yeah,
it's really strong.
He's
he's anybody who can tank a hit. If it was high armor, multiple wounds, who can just sit there and take hits, can throw out those deployables as arrows, take the hit, and then fight back, and then at the end of the turn get reloaded, and then have an active turn with all their equipment back.
He does so many things too, like strategic deployment on your fire teams, where you can pull your deployment zone forward for a fire team. The fact that he's all the profiles except
he's also a wild
arm turret Crazy Koala ones.
Every link gets that.
Yeah. And then the solo versions all have forward deployment 8. So like,
I didn't realize he had a strategic deployment profile.
Yeah.
He has an HMG marksman rifle because it's a PS5 marksman rifle as well in that profile.
Wait, is this strategic deployment +4 or +8?
+8. Oh no, +4 for strategic. Sorry, his hidden deployment forward deployment is +8 because 2 of his profiles also have hidden deployment for some reason. Because this giant tank of a monster it appears in the middle of.
That's what his albedo is.
That's right.
He's the predator armor turns on as soon as he moves.
He's the remember the super predator from Predators. He's that guy. He's the super predator, the predator that kills other predators.
Yeah, the fact that because there's no cap on the special dice, so like. You could bring the strategic deployment Crux Knight with 2 other knights of whatever, like Hospitaller or Santiago's or Montessa's.
To get the extra bonus dice.
You could give him 2 motorized Montessas as his link and give them all forward deployment 4. And then on the first move, the bikes can spread out and he can shoot and he'll be firing with 5 dice, drop the 2 he doesn't like.
That's right. Yeah. His super accurate, his ultra accurate Spitfire or marksman rifle PS5.
Yeah. Well, it has to be the marksman to get the strategic. But
to get strategic, he would. Yeah. You're right.
Yeah. But I mean, again, his is specially damage 5, which puts it the same as an HMG.
Yeah. Or imagine he's just throwing these hyper accurate drop bears. A single drop bear with 3 dice, like just bring a drop bear wherever he wants. What are you gonna do? I'm gonna throw this drop bear 18 inches, just humming drop bears like wherever he feels like.
BS -3 up to 16, 11 on 3 dice.
Let's
go.
I think
I can land one.
Let's go, bro. And I'll reload for free later on anyway for my meal. Yeah, It's really funny.
Yeah,
he's an interesting. Kestrel gets him too. He's an interesting profile.
Yeah. In my list, I brought him as the FTO. I switched it now to the strategic deployment because I had his point to spare from the other one. But yeah, the multi-marksman, just having those 2 special dice. And I brought him with the crosshairs instead.
Croziers?
Yeah, the Crozier and like a Order Sergeant. Because he gets to tag as well.
Why don't we jump into your list next then? Throw your list in the chat and we'll have a look at it.
Well, it's a garbage list because I don't understand.
You're a garbage person.
In the
this
slightest.
This is to be expected.
Yes, so it fits.
Yeah, it fits. It's fully on brand.
Fine. I also got on the Seraph train because I was like, that looks. If I can bring a tag, I want to bring a tag.
I love that none of us did the pain train. It makes me happy that you can make a list here with no pain train. Weird you had two groups though. You leaned into the two groups.
Yeah, I got the two groups. The second group is like, another Crozier link of just like having or maybe no, I think I messed up where I'm putting things. Anyways, so the groups might need to be pushed around a little bit. But I got the Black Friar as the heavy rocket launcher and as like more of an ARO piece that like kind of sits in that kind of HMG range where he can just attack with MSV2. You need Eclipse and or those, disco balls. And then he's got all albedo. So it's just kind of like, it's the best people versus him are like the basic bitches, which are also not the best people to be fighting with. So it's just kind of like, it kind of fits in that like cool IRO piece and then get that special dice.
Can I tell you've been playing each other because you both have so many of the same models across the two lists. Like you both have same Seraph, you both have the Raven Eye, you both have the Mulebot Evo Hacker, you both have a Blackfriar. Like it's just very funny how you actually have different Blackfriars. You have
I actually brought two Mulebots.
You did bring two Mulebots.
I brought the basic bitch.
Pair and a spare. Yep.
Yeah, just to have something. And then you got to get the Curator with the Marksman rifle. You got to, and then I brought the more Link Team Crux Knight though.
Yeah,
to get those. One. Yeah, it's more so to like put him with a few dudes, and then he just kind of runs up, and with his stats, he can just fight anything, and he just gets so many dice that good luck winning a face-to-face against him in active or reactive turn.
You took the double Pathfinders with the Tac-Aware. It's funny. So that stood out to me as the two Tac-Aware Pathfinders. What do you guys think about some factions getting the ITS for FO bot and some not? Because like this was a stand to me is that you get to take two of them in military orders as like a way of generating like extra orders.
Well, it's a nice Whip 13 specialist.
Yep.
That moves 6/4.
Doesn't it climb plus as well?
It does not have climbing plus. That's
There's a couple that do. 012 for sure, but
yeah,
012.
I'm pretty sure my Stemplars in Nomads have climbing plus, and I'm pretty sure the other one, the Aleph one does for sure.
But it's nice. It's a forward observer. It's got the sensor. It's got triangulated fire, which is a huge buff to triangulated fire, and so it's like, you can like kind of like dodge in, and then your combi rifle is like eliminating these Mim 6 guys, right? Even at the S11. But with the Evo bot, you can.
That doesn't do anything.
Well, I mean, not triangulate fire, but like as you're fighting up, kind of thing. It's like it makes the BS11 a lot better, and then triangulate fighter is like a backup. But it's just a super fast kind of. They were really good when ITS gave them all those buffs, and it's like they were I think they were around 16 points at that point. And so for one more point, you lose the other bonus that ITS used to give the marksmanship.
Yep.
But Tac-Aware, I mean, free orders.
That's exactly it. See, and you fit in two there, so it was interesting, and I noticed it.
Yeah, it was just it's not super easy to get the Whip 13 specialist operative. I mean, the Crux is one of those, the Crux Knight, but it's just kind of you have a lot of like Whip. I guess you do have a bunch of Whip 13 guys, but I don't know.
Ash will bring out the Trinitarians.
It's funny they are a thing historically. The Trinitarians, which used to be called
Order Sergeants,
they had a name. It was like Order Sergeant Specialist or something. Remember they had like some weird separate name.
No, they just had a bracket around the
that's what I mean. It was whatever the
Spec Sergeant or something
like that. Yeah, Special Sergeant or something like that. And Owen had a list. His alt list basically in N2, late N2, early N3. It was either Pain Train or it was this like Order Sergeant list that was just all Mim 6 Order Sergeants basically, and then dropping Santiago Knights or Crusader Brother or whatever it was.
No, it was Santiago's.
Yeah, it was Santiago.
Because they used to have a drop. Yeah.
I think they still do have a parachutist at least, or maybe they have an AD one still as well.
No, he's back with combat jump, super jump, jetpack, blah, blah, blah. Santiago's are sweet. They're
they can duo as well. But it's funny. The tertiaries never seem to catch on the same way because they're significantly more restricted. They're only AVA 3, right? Whereas with Order Sergeants, you could take them forever.
It was total.
Yeah, it was total. So you're like, well, I just have nothing but these Mind Layer camouflage MIM 6 guys for 23 points each. But now they kind of like in making them like restricted with the AVAs, and then also make a lot of them have an SWC cost, like the Mind Layer Fort Observers SWC 1, which is a big chunkier SWC if you're gonna take all 3 of them. Whereas like the regular FO one that just doesn't have Mind Layer but is still an FO is the same point cost and no SWC. So it's just weird. The selections are kind of weird.
Yeah, I think they're very good, and like I used those against Dan when we played the actual game where I played this era, which was a very different list where I doubled down on robots, where it was double Peacemakers with its Mind Layer bot teamed up with double Trinitarians with Mind Layer. Mm-hmm. And then double TR bots. So it's like, robots. I like these. These are good now. But yeah, I think they're not what they used to be.
No.
The Crusader Brethren is still garbage.
Yeah. That is worth noting. None of us took Crusader Brothers either. Okay, so that's Dan's list. Dan, put your army code in the
did you give me access to
I gave everybody access, yeah.
Oh, beauty.
Everybody editing access. Keep the scum out. I just did that because we were posting in the patrons chat. I didn't want anyone else to go and fuck with it. And then
I can't
just copying and pasting mine. I said yes to your editing. You're there right now. I can see you.
Maybe just refresh.
Yeah.
F5.
Like the Santiago can combat jump and be a killer hacker and have super jump and be a specialist. And he's like 10 points more than a Crusader Brethren. And he's better in a million different ways.
He's better in a million different ways.
I don't know. Whatever.
I will say my last point before we get into my list, because we're just talking about cool solo pieces while we wait for Dan to do this copy paste, is I do think that Mendoza's value's gone up because just the value of like individual murder pieces has gone up exponentially. So having this like single forward deploy, multi-rifle continuous damage, flaming grenades, like I think he's amazing. Just like I think that I guess
the other glow up actually that we didn't talk about was the Joan of Arc version 2, who gained
mobility armor,
went down in price, gained AP, gained +1 command token, gained strategic deployment. Yep.
The
and
AP
then obviously
far is huge.
It is. And then Martial Arts 3 is now a bigger buff than it used to be. Oh, and an X Visor. So it doesn't have bad anything. She got a +1 burst on her Pulsar as well, which was upgraded from a Nano Pulsar.
Mm-hmm.
I had Martial Arts level 3 against a QAZ creature today, and I was just having those 2 dice. It's so nice.
Oh, that's right.
You have to drop one, but it's like,
And she's trained total, and that can mean a lot of things in ITS. So having trained total is super handy.
Yep.
So +1 command token. She does cost SWC though. That's the one difference. You're not getting 8 SWC that way.
The other version gets you the bonus SWC. This version, like they're almost identical except for the guns change, and then the movement obviously changes. But if you wanted just another kill piece.
And here's my one question. Well, and she still has frenzy, which means the armor restriction is kind of a big deal because she's never going to get cover after she kills somebody, right?
She gets limited cover.
Yeah, she gets the armor bonus. She doesn't get the -3 to hit.
Right.
Yeah. Right. So that's the one thing. That's what I'm saying is the armor reduction counts for more, right? When she's armor 5 going to armor 8, keeping that an 8 is a bigger deal. Do we think, and here's just a question for the group, do we think Kyle's ever going to be worth it?
He beat a tag the other day. Picking shots off with his rifle.
He's cheap as shit still, right? It's 34 points for a multi-marksman rifle. He's got that frenzy. Does have combat instinct, which is cool. He's got berserk, which is cool.
I put him not in military orders, but in a different faction.
Fair enough.
In a duo, because he hasn't got a tag.
He's just another specialist guy. Yeah. He's like one of the boys. If you're bringing Hospitalers, he's around the same points as they are, and has a few extra little like tidbits. Like he's a better melee guy than they are, and his combat instinct gets him around a few things. But like I don't know. If you're just bringing like a on their own 30-ish point guy, you just bring him on Tessa because he's 10 points cheaper and is just better in every way. Like
Foot Montessa.
The bike Montessa is 10 points cheaper.
And he's already got limited cover anyway. He's already frenzied, so who cares?
Yeah, he just gets a free order because he gets impetuous, which is just a free order now. Like there's no downsides.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's supposed to go towards the opponent's deployment zone and stuff like that
for a while till he gets there.
Till he's in your half of the table. So then let's talk about my list last. I've already put the code in, but here it is into the chat. Sorry, I didn't do that yet. That's something I haven't done. So you guys can see it. And I went a very different. It's funny because so far none of us have done a big fire team. I didn't take Joan. Nope, no Joan, no big fire team. I went with a limited insertion army. I did take Joan. But I didn't take a paint train. As I took 3 duos. I took all the named characters, each with a doctor. So Deferson, Spitfire, doctor. Joni, lieutenant, strategic deployment with a doctor. Hawkins with a doctor.
They all share the tag.
Yeah, because hospitalities are all the same.
So it's just 3 duos. They all get bonus bursts or special dice. They've all got a doctor to patch them back up when they go down. And then I just riddled the rest of the list with escort sergeants. Max escort sergeants, 2 with heavy rocket launchers, 1 with a combi rifle, and 1 is a hacking device hacker. So that I have it just maxes out my model count, right? I have all of the possible like mobility bonuses, because literally everything that I activate with an order activates 2 models and gets to move them forward. I didn't do anything fancy with turrets or anything like that. It's just there's a person for every job. Everybody can bring a doctor to do every possible classified objective, right? So I've got a doctor, I've got hackers, I've got everything. The only thing I don't have is an engineer, and I don't really care about having an engineer because I just don't take those missions.
You got speedballs to fix your.
That's it. I got speedballs to fix my dudes if I get obliterated by like an isolate or something like that. But I got Deferson's killer hacking, and I've got another hacker too for some hacking defense on top of that. And that's it. I get it super simple. The standout pieces to me were that Joni's still a fantastic fighter. And you don't need to take big fire teams to not lean on the raw stats of Pano, right? Pano can just lean on their actual profiles, and then you just pair them up with somebody else. Either of the models in that fire team can do a job, because the hospitaller themselves, like the doctor, is still a guy with a multi-rifle. Right, BS-14 guy with a multi-rifle and armed 4. So he's just as good at killing stuff as Joan is at -1 BS. So if Joan takes a wound, she falls back, you send in the doctor. He falls back if he takes a wound, then she goes, then he goes, then she goes, however you need to do it to make the job get done. You get something slightly out of range, you send Hawkins or you send Deferson, because they both got Spitfires or multi-marksman rifles. Send Hawkins if it's something that's got high armor, so you can split the armor. And then you got your killer hacker and all that stuff too. I've got escorts all over the place with flamethrowers for defense. Just litter the board with, pocket flamethrowers to cover the side so nothing can sneak up on you. And lots of throwaway heavy rocket launchers to terrify things that don't want to be hit by flaming missiles. And that's it.
Now,
I feel like
with attack aware, does that count towards the 10 where you can't strip?
Yeah, it does.
Yep.
Oh.
Attack aware, irregular, and regular count towards it. I feel like escort sergeants are not worth it anymore.
Why is that?
I used to run them all the time. So the 2 reasons are the bots are way better. Because the Thunderbolt bot is 18 points, and he's just a TR version of that escort sergeant with 360. Yep. The Pathfinder bot is also cheaper, but he gets attack aware order, and he's a specialist and a repeater, and all the other reasons that Dan liked him. The Mule bot gives you the Evo hacker, can protect against the drop troopers, and he can go +3 BTS for everybody, all of those heavy infantry that you're bringing, and he's even cheaper. And then you don't have Warcore. You're going to bring Joan, and you're not going to bring a free order for 3 points.
3 points, sure.
Right? Like that Oxbot is more than the cost of an order that you put on the table, and so it's like,
yeah, I could drop the escort hacker and take the Thunderbolt, and then take the Warcore.
Yeah, it just like it felt to me like I played against Dan where I just brought 2 of the Order Sergeant FTOs with the rockets and just made them a duo. And then they
I just feel like that heavy
and,
rocket launcher, having a stand-up ARO piece is just so important. And for 19 points, having those two, like having a template and a heavy rocket launcher, both just standing up, holding positions.
right. I'm saying you have the 2 of them stand there, but if they don't have their bots, they can duo and then they get the special dice. Like it's the same idea of what you're doing. It's just get rid of the ox bots and just make another duo. And then the 8 points of ox bots that you just saved turns into like a tech bee or a war core. And then you have another order or a baggage bot, which ties into a different style of play that you haven't really gone into here, but it's there.
Sure. I thought we were
experience.
I don't know if we're it's okay that you don't like the profile. I think it's just an interesting profile. And God will decide. Huh?
With the auxilia dead and buried, he's perfectly fine. With the death of the auxilia, it's fine. List. I thought we were talking about all the lists. This was just my perspective on escort sergeants because I played a million games against you where I always brought them, and now I don't think they fit anywhere. Like that's my experience and my perspective on it.
Now, Ash, you said you brought all the named characters, but what about Dart?
Well, she's not a knight.
And Mendoza.
And Mendoza. Well, and Mendoza's not because this is all the name characters they're hospitalers. They could duo. The idea was to lean into duos instead of taking a big fire team.
My main thing was, is Dart ever worth taking?
I don't hate Dart in certain armies.
For 34 points? So expensive.
Having shock immune, no wounding cap is a pretty.
And EM grenades is fucking great, and camo and climb plus and MSV and courage and forward deploy. Like she's pretty great, man. If you sneak her up to attack and just huck a grenade at it with surprise attack at a cover and camo at close range, the tag can't really do much.
Here's what Dart could do now. The viral tack bow shooting them in the back makes them dodge -9.
Yep.
12 with the surprise attack, and it can kill immunity arm guys with that don't have shock immune.
Yep.
So Volkalax and things like that, she can just kill them outright. And there isn't any other weapon in bears. Bears have like a shit ton of wounds. It kind of gets them around that. But all of those because there's a couple in Invincible Army now, aren't there, that are immunity armor but 1 wound.
They all have like shock immune.
They don't. Li Gong doesn't. They? First guy I clicked on.
Yeah.
Lagong is.
She's got some reasons. The problem is that she's the same price as some of those, or she's more expensive than some of those Trinitarians.
Yeah.
Who like she's 10 points more than those Trinitarians, and you just take a Trinitarian instead.
Lagong's also got that Albedo 6 for your MSV1.
Yeah, she's just not very good. Okay,
she doesn't fit this list, I guess is what I was gonna say. But she's cool. Yeah. I think she's cool. You would take her. She's not like an auto include. You would take her if you're constantly going up against X, Y, or Z.
Right.
She's just not she's not an all the time.
It is definitely hard to justify her against like a Santiago who could just airdrop down.
That is the same point cost too.
And is the same cost, but he's a 2 wound knight.
Yeah.
And he's a specialist, and she is not.
Yeah.
The fact that if she was a specialist, I think you could bring her, but because the faction doesn't need another person who can go up and fight. They want people like the Forward Observer Trinitarian who can like sneak an objective really quick. Like that's what you actually need, because you have like 5 million guys like just sitting in the heavy infantry slot. You have 9 or 10 profiles of BS-14. I have a gun. Anyway.
Yeah. Well, let's wrap this up. I do have a couple other profiles I wanted to mention that were in my head as we round this thing out and we finished talking about 3 of our lists. First one's that Blackfriar Thunderbolt +1 burst. He's new to the N5 because Thunderbolts are new to N5. Also, Blackfriar's only at albedo -3, not -6, which is worth mentioning. They're not as albedo-y as everybody else. But that 0 SWC 25 points Blackfriar that can basically have an HMG if you throw him in with a special dice. It's not really an HMG, but it's like a 3.5 burst. Thunderbolt with albedo in a fire team is pretty cool. I do like him quite a bit. Do you guys have any
Thunderbolt is base 2 burst.
It's 2, yeah, but it's +1 burst.
So 3 burst.
Yeah, so he's 3. He'd be 3.5 if he was in a fire team.
Right.
He's an interesting profile, just because he's cheap. He's 25 points, no SWC. I had a couple other ones that I wanted to bang out. How do we feel about Connie in this edition? Because he's got his hidden deployment now. That's a new change. There's a multi-rifle hidden. He doesn't have a combi anymore. He's got a multi. He's got surprise attack -3, hidden deploy infiltration on his assault pistol profile that sneaks up. And he's still MSV2 MIM3.
I actually like his disco baller one because it gives you smoke. When you don't have smoke, and this is a way to solve like the approach. I never talked to we never did the military orders episode in N4.
No, we didn't.
Where I would just rant about how garbage this faction was.
Yeah.
I'm not sold that they're not still garbage. I just think that the link team change meant that like the thing that made them good with these high stats and like powerful units that were able to hold the line kind of thing, link teams invalidated that when it was like, yeah, but my Fusiliers are higher BS than your military order knight. And now it's not the case anymore.
Yeah.
And so like, did they get better? Nah, not really. But everyone else got worse.
That's it.
So that kind of made it better in and of its own way.
Yeah.
And then obviously
their high stats, I think you're right. I think their high stats, having the ceiling on fire teams come down makes their high stats matter more. If I was going to try and sum up what you just said.
And then they had a bunch of powerful individual fighters who couldn't, like Mendoza is like one of the best single piece fighting guys in the game.
Yeah. Period.
Like he's like completely loaded with every ability you would want. If you wanted to make like optimal heavy infantry who can go fight people, with the exception of being vulnerable to hacking because he doesn't have stealth, he has literally everything else.
Dodge on 16
damage. He has high dodge. He has fast dodge. He has forward deployment. He's got mimetism. He's got a powerful gun.
Every attack is continuous damage.
Right? Like he has a powerful melee weapon. He still has a template because he kept a boarding pistol.
Yep.
So he gets to still do the template stuff.
A flaming template.
He still has a flamethrower as a pistol.
Yep.
Like that's a really big deal. And now he's just better because he's not going to run into a link of 5 Fusiliers with a missile launcher who go, well, we're BS 15 goes to 18 goes to 12. What are you doing, old man? Like, we don't care that you have mimetism. We're just going to shoot you anyway, because if we hit you with either of these dice, you're dead. And now it's like, even if they shoot him on their 13 goes to 10s, he might just live. He's still 2 wounds with armor 4.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a big difference. Like, I think the link change is what, and then obviously the Seraph becoming a like, because we didn't mention it yet, but the fact that the ancillary bots exist now rather than the pilots, he can pop out his ancillary remote at the beginning, which also is as fast as his Oxbot and himself.
Mm-hmm.
And he can jump into melee with a burst 3 explosive close combat weapon.
Sure can. That's a worthwhile note.
Yeah.
And but so just the fact that like, hey, I need to push a button and it's like crazy. You pop out the bot and the bot moves 16 inches a turn and goes, finds whatever he needs to do.
It flies.
Push anything.
It flies.
It literally flies.
Yeah.
Jet propulsion.
Super jump 8,
crab
super
bot.
jump jet propulsion. That's crab bot. Yeah.
I need to design my own.
He's
crab
the
bot
only crab bot who has. Yeah, he's the only crab bot with jetpacks. That's for sure.
Jetpack. Fuck.
Yeah, and so
I mean, like, technically, you could speedball down a 1-use jetpack to all of them.
Nope, jetpack speedball is size 2 only.
Oh, they're size 1. That's right. Oh, yeah. Right.
Wait, is it size 2 less, or is it size 2?
No, it's just size 2
specifically.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, the little boys are too small to grab it.
Yeah,
they don't have shoulders. They can't strap it on.
Only one order, and it's only 6 movements at 8. You know.
Yeah. But yeah, no, I think military orders just does better. I think the problem is you're going to run into the same thing of like 2 other factions do the exact same play as you now. Like it used to be that you were like, we're the heavy infantry faction, and then
Invincible
it's like,
Army can also do it,
and so can O12's latest monstrosity.
The O12 Space Marines, which we're
Torchlight.
But
Torchlight, they don't have a Seraph, and so does military.
Nobody has a Seraph. That's
the Seraph is the thing that is really their big claim to fame. Yeah,
actually stands alone. I had a ton of fun building and painting my Seraph, and I love it. And maybe I'll steal some models from Owen and play a military orders.
Play knights. That's
You
okay.
could. You could.
You sure could. Owen has a lot of knights. You should just take all the knights that no longer exist in the knight army list from Owen and make a knight army out of all that as like ancient proxies.
I do have a San Diego.
Owen probably has 100 knights that you can't.
I think I have 22 models that no longer exist in the game.
Yeah,
just in the Knights army, and that was the same in N4. Like nothing changed between N3 and N4 as far as what got annihilated in that collection. And like that's why it was always so funny to me when I was like, yeah, they need to crunch all the profiles, and people are like, no, they're gonna get rid of things, and it's like, yeah. Say that to my 4 Knights of Montesa and my 4 Magister Knights, and then my 4 new Magister Knights that came out just before they deleted them out of the game.
Owen has infinite proxies for any knight profile made in the future. He'll have some
here's my
miniature that
here's my 4 Knights of the Sepulchre that are only size 2.
That's right. That are now all, I don't know, Crux Knights.
They all pretend to be Defersons because I refuse to buy the new Deferson. I have an old Deferson.
You do have
well, he's the same guy. He's the dude with a Spitfire. Like they're just little Defersons.
Little baby Defersons.
They don't even have their guns out. They're all just hackers.
Just what you do is you take all of your Holomask guys and make them all Defersons.
I did that with Joan. Remember when I was trying to get all the Jones?
All the different Joan models, so you could just holomask everyone as different Jones, and you have all the Jones on the table. Which Joan's Joan, but it was just all different sculpts of the same model.
Because I have 4 Joan sculpts, but at one point there was like 6, I think.
There was a lot. Yeah, there was a lot of Joan sculpts.
And I have 4 of them. But anyway.
We've gone too far.
Military Orders is definitely one of the factions in Infinity. I wish a few models got a glow up that didn't get one. I think the Infirmerers of St. Lazarus really needed something, and they actually just got worse. They took away their monofilament close combat weapons,
which is
for some
weird.
reason.
Yeah, it was like a weird.
Did they drop them in points at least?
No,
it's the same.
Like 20 around there. There's still
and they just have like a basic shock CC weapon now, which is weird.
Yeah,
they had the monofilament because it was meant for amputation, right? It was supposed to be like a lore thing that they would amputate your limb like super cleanly, and so they had these monofilament weapons. And then they just gave them shock instead.
Crusader Brethren kind of got a buff because they got the super jump jet propulsion.
Yeah,
but then they gave it to the Santiago as well, and so it just invalidated it because again,
it didn't make it different or interesting.
Right? Like, oh, you're a drop troop with Fizz 11. Would you like to be a drop troop with Fizz 13 for 8 points or 7 points?
Yeah, Warhorse on the Knights of the Holy Sepulchre was cool because he is now like unbrickable. You can't
isolate him.
Can't isolate him.
And the fact that you can have
isolate them is so much more reliant against high BTS people because it's PS4 with AP. Mm-hmm. But if you're immune to it.
I mean, but if you're 9 to start, you're already pretty resilient.
Oh yeah,
so like
even better.
And he's a hollow projector, so he's pretending to be 2 other things. So you're also playing the game,
and also stealth, so you're not doing any other apps. So
right. So like he was already pretty resilient. Warhorse, I guess, makes it so he counters all those BS attack -3 people that are out there now.
Yeah, just walks into the fight. And Natural Born Warrior is nice too.
I like that they brought a dismounted Montesa. The only thing that they didn't bring back on him was a grenade launcher. It's so close.
Yeah.
If they had just given him back his grenade launcher, I'd bring them again.
Yeah.
But they didn't do it. They made him a dirt cheap heavy infantry though.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, he keeps his limited cover even though he's off the bike.
Right. He gets his impetuous. So it's still pretty good. And he kept his mimetism despite getting off the bike.
Yep,
so he's kind of that. But the fact that he's an 11-point per wound model with armor 4.
Oh yeah. He's no joke. He's
a dirt cheap heavy infantry.
He is. Yeah. A dirt cheap tough guy. And he can still be a paramedic, so he can still go off and have adventures and push buttons and steal things.
And he has a boarding pistol.
And 4 deployment +8. So he's deploying 20 inches.
Yep. Unless you link him with only the motorized ones can link.
Motorized ones I have to.
My mistake. I always think when you almost get there. You're so close, Montesa.
So close. All right. Well, up next is we're going to the Svarlaheima's Winter Force. So you guys can check that one out next week. It's going to be an exciting episode with many Yodems, I'm sure, by at least one of us, and many other things from the rest of us. So thanks for listening, guys. We'll be back with our next, I guess, what is it? Heroes to Zeros, Zeros and Heroes, in our 3-list format. And we'll chat to you later. Bye, everybody.
Bye.